This is CXO Secrets, the podcast that takes you inside the mind of business leaders and reveals the strategies behind their success. Coming up in today's show,
what does AI plus data management plus digital look like? I think that the combination of those three and whatever that answer is the next big opportunity for all of us.
the CXO Secrets podcast is powered by EDS, going beyond connections. Find out about upcoming C-level events, experiences, and insights at edsxevents.com. Samir Mehta, Chief Data Officer at Kroll. Good to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Whereabouts are you joining from today?
I'm joining today from New York City.
New York City. Fantastic. Yes. I will be there myself in 3 weeks' time as we record today, but we'll come back to that later on. First of all, though, can you tell us a bit about Kroll and about your role there?
Yeah, sure. Kroll is a financial advisory and risk advisory professional services organization. We have deep-rooted capabilities in each of those areas, and I'll touch on just on a couple of them. In our financial advisory area, we are very, very good at known for our valuation services. So this could be any asset that you're trying to get a valuation out of. Our professionals in that service line can help you do just that. And then on the risk advisory side, we have several service lines that help you with cyber security and also governance, risk, and advisory as well. So we are a conglomerate of probably about 30 to 35 different service lines that come together in two business units that make up the organization, right? So those are our revenue generating parts of the company. And then the third business unit is more internally focused, and that's where you typically find functions like finance, human resources, legal. So that rounds out the company. My specific role, I am the Chief Data Officer for the company worldwide. And that's been my responsibility here now for the past 30 months or so.
Okay, well, we'll come back a little bit more to that in a moment, perhaps. But you've worked in the technology and data management space for quite a long time, it's fair to say, I think, yes. Being polite and all of that. And it was long before data became cool, as it certainly seems to have been over the last 10 or so years. So what was it that brought you into the kind of data management, data curation path, as it were?
You know, it was a very unique experience. And of my career, after I finished my 2 academic degrees in the Wall Street firms, as anyone basically living in the New York City area, your typical career path is, let's check out what the financial services and Wall Street firms have to offer. And I started there just as a business analyst. And you're going back now to the late 1990s, okay? And I found myself working in this so-called middle ground, where there's the front office of the companies, and then there's the back office, where technology and all of the functions that are supporting the front office sit. And very quickly, I understood that they were both speaking a very different language. And what I mean by that is the traders and the risk-generating parts of the company spoke in business terms, and the technology organization spoke in technical terms, and there was no bridge, okay? And so I saw that as an opportunity to reduce that gap and to create that bridge. And what I quickly understood is that if I was able to bridge the gap through data, that was the common language that they were both looking for. And so I kind of just fell into this profession just because of that, and trying to find how to bring these two entities together that typically had the same goal, but were going about it in different ways. But as soon as we got together and started speaking about what the data was showing us, what the data was telling us, that is where I said, now I have the opportunity to do something that's very unique. And if you're going back 25 years, that was very unique, right? And that's kind of what led into the different roles that I've had. And then, as you know, the chief data officer kind of role did not come to these organizations until about 2010 or so. But that's how I got started, and that kind of led to where I am today.
That whole theme of bridging the gap between the back office and the front office, I feel as long as I've worked in and around the IT industry, that's been very much a journey that there was quite a big gap once upon a time, yet through various ways, whether it's technology enabled or whether it is just an awareness of the benefits of bridging that gap, as you put it, I feel as though wherever you work in an organization now, there is a real rush to ensure that everybody feels as though they're in the front office. Even if you are working on admin systems for internal email, the closer you feel to whoever your customer is, the better, the more motivated you are. Interestingly, another way of expressing what I think you're expressing, or maybe an adjunct to it, is, and we talk about this with CDOs and chief, something to do with information and technology officers quite a lot, is that role of a translator. The fact that there are different languages being spoken, and the more technical the discipline, and as we know, the data part of many organizations has multiplied in complexity over the recent decade or so. Someone who can translate that, make it business friendly, and the other way around, translate whatever messages you're getting from your colleagues on the top table there, and then translate that into actions that your team can act upon. That's where there is a real value in the role that you fulfill. Does that kind of feel right to you?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That feels very right. Too right.
We're talking about how the industry's changed, about how attitudes towards data's changed, the chief data officer, data science being the sexy job title of the last 10 or so years. That might be changing, but we'll come on to that in a bit, perhaps. In terms of the capabilities, in terms of the tools that support you in doing what you do and support your teams in doing what they do, where are we on the maturity curve, do you think? Are the tools that enable you and your teams to understand, to analyze, to provide actionable insights from the data in whatever goal they're trying to achieve, do you feel as though we are reaching a degree of maturity yet, or is there still some way to go?
Yeah, so to set some background here, I am the maiden CDO for Kroll. Okay, and so there was no incumbent in the position before, so this is a brand new role for the company. So I had the unique opportunity to kind of start this from scratch, from nothing really, honestly, from a whiteboard. And so in the last 30 months, not only have we, stood up a program and implemented the program, but we did bring in the different tool sets that we didn't have before. And our maturity on that now, I can say is probably on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being most mature, we are passing 3 now.
Okay.
Which is a really good place to be, because when you pass 3, what happens is that the larger organization, the broader organization is catching on. Okay, that's when your program is resonating with the potential beneficiaries out there, right? And then, the leap from 3 to 4, and then I don't know if they'll ever achieve a 5. I think, the 5 becomes a 6, and the 6 becomes a 7, and the journey continues. But I can see ourselves, approaching that 4 most likely by, this time next year, right? And so not only have, we brought in the tools, we've matured the usage of the tools, we've also matured our constituents' understanding of what the program can bring to them in terms of benefits. And that's a really good place to be. And so, that's exactly where we are.
Are there any specific examples you can share there? You mentioned this journey that you're on. You were in a greenfield site before there. Any specific examples that you can share of an application of, data science. Maybe let's roll in AI into that, and I want to come on to AI in a moment, where you've actually been able to achieve a thing for your company that has realized some tangible value.
Yeah, so 100% I can. So there's a couple of the tools that we did bring in, and this is under the auspices of the ERP program that we just basically completed. So the most of 2023 and 24 up until now has been standing up our new ERP program. And as some of us may know, ERP programs, 50% of them are process and 50% of them are data. Okay. And bringing that data together so that our reporting across the organization can be fueled by our data lake was one of our strategic objectives. So we've made partnerships with a couple of companies out there that have helped us to get to this journey, Databricks being one of them. So our data lake resides on that infrastructure, and we have a very close partnership with Databricks. And then another tool that we brought in was Chainsys, and that tool is a end-to-end data management platform that we use for data ingestion, ETL, data management, master data management, and even data cataloging. So, and these are the two prime tools, if you will, that have helped us get through our ERP journey. And then also other programs and projects along the way that have come from our revenue generating side of the business. And we are making use of these tools. These tools are not shelfware. They are actively part of our operating model. And the great part about it is that it's not just the CDO team using these tools. It is now our different service lines and different functions that are actually have hands-on keyboard using these various tools to their advantage.
That's the nirvana, isn't it? Actually having other teams, other functions using this under their own steam without you saying you should be using this. That's them getting value from it. You mentioned the 50% process, 50% data for ERP projects. I would go, 50-50 plus 99% incredibly difficult. I've been involved on a fair few of those over the years, and because of the so many hooks that ERP systems have into various parts of the company, they are no mean feat to pull off. The data function doesn't live on its own, hopefully, and it sounds as though that's a journey that you've been on to really integrate it into the rest of your organization. Tell me about the main collaborations you have in your role as the Chief Data Officer there with other CXOs. This is the CXO's Secret podcast, I guess. So are there any other CXOs who are on your frequently dialed list? The CIO, perhaps, the CISO, the CFO?
Yeah, all three, in fact.
Okay.
Right? And I'll tell you, the ERP program was a finance ERP program. So our CFO and his team was involved with us day in and day out. Okay. In fact, my closest partner is our head of reporting, financial reporting, who reports to our CFO. And he's responsible, and we have been collectively responsible for producing up to about 60 some odd reports now through the data lake infrastructure that we built out, and all that data being aggregated from the ERP system and other systems such as our CRM system as well, and our human capital management systems also. So our CFO has collaborated with us very closely over the past year and a half. Our CISO, obviously, when it comes to security and just getting these tools that I mentioned vetted through our CISO so that we can actually utilize them, has been a collaboration. And anytime we touch any data and we ingest any data into the data lake, we actually make sure that our CISO is involved in that. And then obviously our CIO as well too, as that role is responsible for our infrastructure also and our enterprise systems. And therefore, that collaboration is quite important as well too. So the C-suite at Kroll is heavily involved. in not only supporting the data program, but also being part of it, making it successful.
Let's carry on with that C-suite conversation, and let's throw AI in there as well. And one of the most divisive job titles of 2024, some might say, and maybe on the verge of stealing the crown of having the sexiest job title at the moment, is the CAIO. And we've seen a number of high-level appointments. NASA, Pfizer, Deloitte, Dell, Intel, and so on have all made announcements about the appointment of CAIOs, Chief Artificial Intelligence Officers. What's your take on the merits, on the necessity, maybe on the longevity of a Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer?
Look, I see this whole wave of AI. It reminds me, and not that I was born back then, but when we went through the gold rush here in the United States, everyone just rushed out the door to find, that gold that was out there. I think it was 1847. If I knew my history well, maybe I could be completely wrong, but. And the push for AI reminds me of that. Like, we got to get something done. We've got to prove it out. Otherwise, and I don't know what that otherwise means, right? So the push to get chief AI officers of that position with the C-suite is, I think it's a little too quick right now. Remember, the chief data officers came about because of the financial collapse of 2008, right? And these roles were established, or the CDO role was established first to kind of defend the company, right, from that, right? And they became more of regulatory roles. What do we need to get right to make sure that our data doesn't get us to a point where we have these issues anymore? So they were never offensive roles the CDO was. It took only, after several years of the CDO being in a defensive posture, that now we realize that, these roles can help us generate revenue for a company, not only reduce costs for an organization, but generate revenue and also do the defensive stuff that it did as it was inaugurated, 15 years or so ago. And now the chief data officer has become a holistic role in an organization. The chief AI officer is in that same journey right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's in the incubation phase, as the CDOs were, 15 years ago. And only time will tell the maturity of that role and whether it will withstand the test of time, right? So right now, I think it's akin to a gold rush, but they've got to prove their seat at that executive table. Our chief data officers are my brethren across the globe have been proving that case now for a better part of a decade. And they're still proving it, right? They've got to, right? So I would say good luck to the newly appointed chief AI officers. And they better partner with their chief data officers if they want to show that value.
Maybe there'll be a few chief data officers who fancy their chances applying for some chief AI officer roles. It's interesting you took us back there to financial crisis, to when chief data officers came around. Of course, that was around about the time when the conversation was all around big data, and you would have your CEO get off a plane journey in business class, sat next door to the CEO of another company, and they'd get off, and as the apocryphal stories went, they would go straight to the CTO and say, we need some big data, get us some big data in our company, or else, like you say, who knows what the or else is? I guess it's will be left behind. We spoke about the 3 V's, didn't we? The volume, velocity, and variety of big data. But the 4th V, which is the most important one, got lost, or at least didn't come true for a little while later, and that's value, the most important V of big data. And I think maybe, just maybe, this is where we are with AI at the moment. Goodness knows people are chucking a lot of money, energy in all kinds of senses at AI right now. And I'm sure you can string together some V's, but maybe until we can actually get some real value, demonstrable, repeatable value throughout the organization, it's still going to be a little bit contentious. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long these roles last for. Tell me, what is it that is keeping you awake at night? What's the main sort of challenges that you face as a CDO? I'm sure you have a mission of some sort that you've made up for yourself or your team or your peers have agreed on for you. What are the main hurdles? What are the main obstacles that you face in achieving that mission right now?
Look, for us here, as I mentioned earlier, we are a very complex company, right? We are multiple service lines that act independently, but at the same time should be and oftentimes do work together, but there isn't that anchor that we could all go back to. And that anchor that I'm trying to build, that the CDO office is trying to build, is data. Connect ourselves through data, right? So my mission every day I get up and before I sign off for the day is how much data have I connected today and who have I connected to that data that's actually finding value and producing value for us, right? And it's going to take us quite some time to get there. Some of our challenges very specifically is in our financial services space, we have a lot of unstructured data, right? And so one of our guiding principles in the CDO office is 104 is unstructured data to structured data is one of our guiding principles. Wherever we can, let's get that data structured, marry it up with the other structured data in the organization, and now you're on your path to digitizing that data, right? And so it's that connected ecosystem that we are trying to build is the number one goal for the CDO office here, because there is so much benefit that comes off of connecting data. As an example, we're not producing products that are good for only one service line and therefore one type of customer of that service line. We can now produce data products across service lines because now we can see the data connected, right? And that product ideation now is available to us that really wasn't there before that connected data, right? So that now creates opportunities to have cross-service line products, and that only brings in further revenue to the organization. And then also we're building products that are used by multiple service lines, and therefore, if that happens, there's multiple revenue streams created that were not there before. So that's really our mission, and that's what keeps me up.
Joining the dots. That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots, yes. And as I think the quote goes back to Steve Jobs all those years ago, creativity is just connecting things.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Super stuff. Thank you. Let's come on to some questions that we ask all of our guests here on CXO Secrets. What's your secret? Put your modesty to one side for a moment if you can. What's your key attribute, or what's the key learning or experience that has helped you think, to get to where you are today?
David, I think that's really simple, and that's anticipating the next ask, okay? And because I've done this for as long as I have, across various industries, not just financial services, but in manufacturing as well too, and the defense sector also, that across those those types of organizations, I've come across many different asks, and I think I've seen and can anticipate what the next big ask is going to be, and then therefore already be prepared to deliver on that. Right? I think that's it's kind of like driving a road, right? When you enter a highway, you know that the car in front of you that is going to enter that highway most likely is not going to stop in the right lane. It's going to move to the middle lane and then most likely go to the left lane, right? So it's anticipating moves like that, on the roads that you can just anticipate now in the corporate world, just because of having done this for several years now. That is, I think, the secret sauce now that I can bring to any organization. I always say, it's not what the company can do for me now; it's what I can do for the company. Right? To paraphrase one of our U.S. presidents, that's where we are now.
There's something that we do with our kids. I have 2 young children, and on every birthday, they are gifted a new superpower. And during the course of their day, they have to work out what it is. And it might be that one of them will say, I can run faster today, Daddy, or I can read much quicker, I can jump higher. Sounds as though on one of your birthdays, this sixth sense, this anticipation was the superpower that you uncovered. And that's something that you've been able to lean into ever since.
So can I share a secret with you?
Oh, that's what we're all about here.
You're not going to believe this, but it is my birthday.
Well, happy birthday, and thank you for joining us on your birthday and sharing your innermost C-suite secrets. We really appreciate it.
And I can send you my driver's license if you don't believe it.
I'm sure there's some data somewhere that we can do some analysis on that will be able to prove that one out. A bit of fun. I'll let you get back to enjoy your birthday in a moment. But first of all, we do a pass the question here on CXO Secrets. And each of our guests has to answer a question that's been posed by our previous episode's guest. And then they get to ask a question to whoever's on the next episode. It can be a serious question or not, as you like. Now, our last guest was Andres Andreu, Deputy CISO at Hearst, and he wanted to ask you, well, this toughie of a question.
In regards to the question of understanding your legitimate holistic attack surface, because I think at the end of the day, a cybersecurity leader that does not have a keen understanding of where these attacks can possibly come from, especially the areas that are never obviously thought of, I think those folks are just going to get caught by surprise one day and end up in a predicament. But if you can honestly tell yourself, wow, I really never looked at that part of my ecosystem, and go address it, I think that's a really good question to ponder on a personal level.
Thank you for your question, Andres. Now, Andres' question is kind of specific, if you like, to the CISO space there. And I know that's not strictly your discipline, but information security, it isn't just the information securities team responsibilities, right? It's everybody in the organization's job to be across information security. So as a CDO, I'm curious to know how you approach understanding the surface area of your data estate and the tools that you use, but from a information security point of view.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we do partner with our CISO quite a bit, right? And you're right, it's not my forte or my domain. And so we are in a supporting role for our CISO there, right? And so we work with them on as much as they ask us to, okay, without imposing, our will into kind of what their domain is, right? So the CDO team does have a couple of individuals that work very closely with our CISO team, and they're mostly aligned on what the programs the CISO is doing and what help they need from us, right? So, for example, on the privacy of data, we have partnered quite a bit on protecting the privacy of our data assets across the board, right? We collaborate on what tools we should bring in that'll help us to achieve just that, right? So that's where our collaboration has been. We will be there for our CISO. We're not leading our CISO in that way at all. We've kind of made that distinction very clearly between the CDO role and the CISO role, right? We don't want to be in that space, and that's the professional respect that we have for each other, and we properly assist each other where we need to regarding protecting our assets as best as we can.
It's interesting from a role that I used to perform. The visibility that I presume you have in the data function, sometimes you may have more visibility than the information security team, or because, as you alluded to a few moments ago, you're joining the dots. You're trying to create these, remove the silos and to join things together. And by virtue of that, maybe you can see a storage array here or a chunk of data stashed away there that is actually, you are adding to the overall visibility of
Correct.
your organization's data estate that can help then to support attack surface management and so on, and support even more the information security officers team.
Yeah, we create that transparency, right? When we do that profiling across the company of the different applications that we have and data stores that we have, it's that transparency that then our CISO team can see and then react to that accordingly.
Good question. Andres, thank you for your question. Samir, thank you for your very thoughtful response to that. And if I could ask you, if you were to pose a question to our next guest on the show, whoever that may be, what would that question be? And again, it can be serious or not, as you wish.
So maybe not a question, but a point of view. So I see three trends out there. One is obviously AI, okay? The second is the continued use of data, and so managing that data. So let's call it data management. And thirdly is digital is still out there. What does AI plus data management plus digital look like? I think that the combination of those three, and whatever that answer is the next big opportunity for all of us. And so I would love to hear the opinions that of your next guest on what he or she would think about bringing those three together and what that output would look like.
Oh, I love that. Great question. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see if our next guest is thanking you with as much enthusiasm as I just did with the way in which you asked that question. Listen, great to have you on the show. And I know that we'll be speaking again very soon in New York at the EDS CIO CISO X New York event at the Conrad New York downtown on the 12th of September 2024. And among all the conversations that we'll be having, you're going to be on a panel talking about AI in the enterprise. Looking forward to it?
Great. Thank you, David. I look forward to seeing you there next month. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much indeed. Samir Mehta, Chief Data Officer at Kroll. Thanks for joining us on your birthday.
Thanks again.